Okay, so this is the 5th period review video, which will be problems that are multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, etc., etc. All right, that first one, table. That looks like, I think I told you this already, that looks like the free response question on the test, where I give you a table with f and f prime, g and g prime, and then ask a bunch of questions where you have to use the table. So, free response question on the test, the very last question looks a whole lot like this page. I mean, numbers change, problems rearranged and shuffled around, but very similar type problems. Number 3, find h prime at 9 if h of x equals f of g of x. So what rule are we talking about if I'm looking at f of g of x? Chain rule. So outside in, the outermost is the f, so f prime, but leave g alone, and then chain it onto the derivative of g, so g prime of x. This would be a good spot to remind you that you can get partial credit on multiple choice questions, and if you had that written out, I'd probably be worth a point because, hey, you did the calculus, like you knew it was chain rule, you did the chain rule right, as long as it said h prime equals. Now, if all you had was this, I'd be less inclined because you haven't told me what that is. So work on labeling your work, not just for the partial credit, but because it helps you keep things clear. All right, h prime of 9. So 9 goes in for x everywhere. So g of 9, but I go to the table, and g of 9 is equal to 6. So then I need f prime of 6 and g prime of 9. So f prime at 6 is pi, and g prime at 9 is 2, so 2 pi. So those are good questions because they don't take much time. There's not a lot of computation. There wasn't anything crazy, weird derivative rules. You just had to know chain rule and how to use the table. So I'm expecting you guys to do well on the free response questions. Number 6. Must there be a value of x between 2 and 9? What does this sound like? IVT. At which f of x equals 0, justify your answer. Okay, IVT means if x is continuous and the y is between the y's, then the x's are between the x's. So I need to say f of x is continuous.
We have to write this?
Yes. You have to write f of x is continuous. Now you have to also say why it's continuous if it doesn't just specify that it is, and it doesn't say that it is. So how do I know that f is continuous? Other than they're asking me for IVT, so it has to be continuous. But how do I know that f is continuous? It's differentiable. Because f is differentiable. Meaning f has a derivative. And if f has a derivative, that means it's continuous. Be careful, it doesn't work the other way. If f is continuous, it's not necessarily differentiable, but if it's differentiable, it's definitely continuous. Okay, so that's one of the conditions. The other condition is the y values. So I need to check f of 2 and f of 9, and we'll see if 0 is in between there. And if it is, then we're good. If it's not, then we don't know. And this is not one of those verified. This is a question, like is it or is it not? I don't know. F of 2 is 3. F of 9 is negative 4. And we're talking about f of x equals 0. So yeah, f of 9 is less than 0 is less than f of 2. Or you can say negative 4 is less than 0 is less than 3. So you can use the function notation or the values, either one, because once you've stated that they're equal to each other, then they kind of become interchangeable. Okay, so if my y value is in between my x values, then that means there is an x between 2 and 9. So you could write it out between 2 and 9, or you could just say 2 is less than x is less than 9, such that f of x equals 0. You don't even have to say that that's IVT, but it's probably helpful if you recognize it. Again, if you start at some y value and end at another y value, and you're continuous, then you got to cross through all the points in between there. Number 9. Find the slope of the line tangent to the graph. So that just means derivative. In terms of x, if g equals that terrible thing. So g equals, well, I'm going to do some algebra first. Natural log of x squared plus natural log of the square root of x cubed minus 1. Again, show your work to get partial credit, and show me what it is. If you just write that, I don't know if you think you're doing the derivative or if you think you're doing algebra. But if you tell me that's g equals, then I know that you're just working on g before you get to the derivative. In fact, I would do one more step. 2 natural log x plus, what's the square root in terms of an exponent? 1/2. So we're just making our calculus lives easier and easier with each algebra step. Now I'm ready to take a derivative. Again, label that. Don't leave off the labels, because then you get confused and I get confused as to what you're doing. Now we're taking the derivative. So 2 times 1 over x plus 1/2. 1 over x cubed minus 1 times 3x squared. And of course, none of our answers look like that. So what do we need to do to make our answer look like one of these? How do I turn this into this? So 2 over x plus 3x squared over 2 times x cubed minus 1. So what do I need to do to get from here to something over here? Common denominator. So let's see, this one just needs an x, that's the easy one. This first one needs a 2, and then x cubed minus 1. So my denominator is good, 2x, x cubed minus 1, which matches some of my answer choices, so I'm feeling good. Distribute the 4, I get 4x cubed minus 4 plus 3x cubed. Alright, so now I'm good. 7x cubed minus 4 over 2x, x cubed minus 1, so B. This is a great example of, if I label my steps, algebra, algebra, calculus, algebra, algebra. Calculus is easy, algebra is hard. But that's why you show your work, so that if I can spot your correct calculus, I can give you some points. Number 12. What is the instantaneous rate of change, also known as the derivative, of h with respect to x if h of x equals that thing? Okay, so the derivative of 3 is just a constant. The derivative of 2 to the negative x squared is 2 to the negative x squared. times chain rule, negative 2x. And if you stop there, oh, you wouldn't even want to stop there. You look at your answer choices and you're reminded that I've got to do something with that 2 times natural log 2. So let's see here. I do not want to do this 3 times 2. I can't do that and get 6. That's what some of that is. Please don't do that. I can do 3 times negative 2x, negative 6x, 2 to the negative x squared, natural log 2. That is answer choice A. Some logs, we did some exponents. Here we go. Here's the inverse question that London you were asking about. If f is cosine of 2x between 0 and pi over 4, g is the inverse of f, find g prime at 1/2. Again, this is just like overwhelming information. So set up the table to just keep track of everything. So yeah, it takes a few seconds to set it up, but I think it's well worth it. Okay, so g prime of 1/2. So where's that 1/2 go in terms of my table? That's the x value for g. Okay, which means, actually, let me still think big picture here. So my highlighted box is what I'm going for. I know that those boxes are reciprocals. So as usual, the name of the game is, if I can get the derivative of f, I can flip it over and I'll have my answer. Okay, now back to the details here. 1/2 is the x for g. What does that mean, or how does that help me? That means it's the y for f. And sometimes this means I now go to the table and try to figure it out, or I can go to a graph and figure it out. But this time I've got an equation. So the y value is 1/2. That equals cosine of 2x. So where is the cosine equal to 1/2? Let's see, that'd be at pi over 3. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. So that means I need 2x to be pi over 3. So x is pi over 6. So I'm getting close. Now I need a derivative. I'll plug in pi over 6 and then flip it over. I said I'm close. Maybe that's not so close after all. F prime is derivative of cosine is negative sine. And there's going to be a real common mistake right there. What's wrong with this as a derivative? Right? Derivative of cosine is negative sine. What am I missing? I need a times 2 for the chain rule. Alright, and then at pi over 6, negative 2 sine of 2 pi over 6. So sine of pi over 3 is root 3 over 2. So the 2's cancel, and that's negative root 3. And then if I flip it over, negative 1 over root 3, answer choice C. Those problems, there's just a long way to get there. So many pieces. But I think the table helps keep your thoughts organized. Number 18, same kind of question. H and H inverse. H and the inverse. Point and derivative. So let's see, I want h, the derivative of the inverse of h at 7. So again, I'm looking for this bottom right corner. when x is 7. I know those are reciprocals. That means my y value is 7 for the original. So I have to figure out, oh no, I don't have to figure it out. They just told me h of 2 is 7. So now I know why they told me that. I don't have to figure it out. I do need to figure out the derivative, although this one's power rule, so this isn't bad. 3x squared minus 2. What am I plugging in there? 2 or 7? Plugging in the 2. And then I'll flip it over to get the derivative at 7. So I'm plugging in 2 because I'm working on h. So 3 times 2 squared minus 2. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 2 is 10. So the derivative of h is 10. And if I flip it over, I get 1/10. F of x is this function. Which of the following is true? First derivative, second derivative, third derivative, fourth derivative. Okay, so I guess I just start taking derivatives until one of them is wrong. Derivative of sine is cosine. Derivative of e to the negative x is e to the negative x. But I need a negative on there because of the chain rule. The derivative of e to the negative x, that negative hops down. And the derivative of 3x is 3. So it's not A, that's not true. The second derivative of cosine is negative sine. Derivative of e to the negative x is e to the negative x. The negative hops down and makes it positive. And the derivative of 3 is gone. So it's not B. Problem is rigged to make us take multiple derivatives here. Derivative of negative sine is negative cosine plus e to the negative x with a negative. So it's not C. I sure hope it's D. The fourth derivative of negative cosine would be a positive sine, and then plus e to the negative x. That was cruel. They rigged that problem to make us do 4 derivatives. Number 24. The slope of the line tangent to the graph, meaning take a derivative, when x equals negative 1. So y prime is 1 over 1 minus x. But chain rule, what's the derivative of 1 minus x? Negative 1. So y prime is negative 1 over 1 minus x. And if I plug in negative 1, negatives all over the place here, negative 1 over 1 minus negative 1, negative 1/2. Okay. Felt like we saw a little bit of everything doing every third problem there. Power rule, trig rules, each of the new things, the inverses, the logs, and the exponents were all in there, plus a lot of review. While I'm thinking about it and looking at it, throw out number 19. 19 uses a concept that we haven't learned yet. It's an easy concept. It kind of fits in anywhere, but we haven't done it yet. So throw out number 19. And you don't have to worry about it. There's nothing on the test that requires it, so no worries there.